Welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Pot of Ages, the premier League of Legends podcast by two people who have never hit Masters. I'm your host, Doomfunk. Your other host is the gentleman next to me, Paradox Pope. We will be taking you on a journey today because we are talking about League of Legends Worlds, the quarterfinals and the finals. We're going to be breaking
down through my emotional lows.
As Dom said, I have no reason to live anymore. I must end myself. Or as Cadril said, yes!
Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra. The Korean double agents hard at work. Well, not in the first series of Weibo versus Billy. But in the second series, T1 versus JDG, definitely a little bit there. We're going to break down first Weibo Gaming versus BLG, Weibo's win in 5 games over Billy. And then we're going to talk about T1's win in 4 games over JDG.
Indeed, and then go into our perspective ideas about this crazy finals that nobody saw coming. Definitely not. I feel like Weibo in finals, that was probably the least likely prescribed output, except for maybe NRG in finals, I guess. But
so Friday night, I was lying awake, couldn't sleep, just running the games through my head of like, okay, so T1's probably going to win. And Weibo could do it. And I didn't change my pick'ems because I knew if I changed my pick'ems, it would butterfly effect throughout the universe, and we would have BLG versus JDG in the finals.
I am honestly glad that Weibo won for one reason only, just that so if BLG had gone up and won, we would never have to deal with the conversation of, well, if JDG had just gone, there's no way BLG would have won. Because Weibo at least has beaten JDG in the summer, just normal season games. So Weibo has at least shown the ceiling on that regard that BLG has never accomplished. But obviously, Weibo has just been so much more inconsistent than the other top 3 through the summer season, at least.
Yeah, and part of what I wanted to talk about is how a lot of these games are, it's not who's the better team or who has had the better year. It's who is showing up on the day. And in the Weibo BLG series, the Shy showed up massively.
Huge, yeah.
And
Weiwei.
Weiwei was
pretty beast moments.
Was a rock. Crisp had high highs and low lows.
Mm-hmm.
And Light was, from what I can tell, very consistent. The only missing piece was Xiaohu not generally showing up. He was kind of not really there.
I would say too. He just had some really weird moments, like completely wasteful flashes and engages that were just too far reaching with the Azir, Obviously, it didn't seem too detrimental with how huge the Shy was. But the plan was still rolling. I think definitely going to be an issue in the finals. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so let me pull up the drafts because that'll help us talk about the games a bit easier. Because Weibo won in 5 games, all on blue side.
Yeah.
So once again, blue side OP.
That every game seemed kind of decided, for the most part throughout. They just had even tides until the end.
I will say this. the games Weibo lost, they didn't ban Jax.
Yeah. But it's also fair to say that in the first game against the Jax was a non-issue in the laning phase. That game was lost for other reasons.
That game, I wasn't. Let me see my. So let's talk about game one first. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
Because Weibo bans Jax, Jarvan, Rakan, and BLG bans Orianna, Callista, Caitlyn.
Yeah, we already seeing this double range bot lane priorities starting to peek through in the first draft. Even if they're not as locked in, it's still the more typical.
Yeah, but I think it was just a little bit premature by BLG to ban the Caitlyn when I don't think Weibo showed it against NRG.
I presume it's in scrims. That's the biggest thing that seems to have happened between quarterfinals and semifinals is this huge progression in meta that has all happened in scrims because we went from some level of like engaged support priority still being pretty high with these counters starting to show to literally nothing even being drafted or touched. Like Nautilus went to almost 0% presence in these last two series.
Well, he's been 100%. He's been 100% banned.
Not in all of them.
Almost 100% banned. So yeah, he did fall off in the Weibo BLG series later on. But this is the only good Bel'Veth angle we've seen all series. We'll talk a little bit about Kanavi's Bel'Veth and how it actually wasn't bad. There was a couple misclicks, and then he completely just like threw the game.
When we get to that, we'll get to that. But I hated everything JDG did draft wise that series.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But Weibo drafted pretty normal. Kind of what we were seeing like the tier 2 becoming.
Both of these drafts are pretty reflective of where we saw the meta going by the end of Swiss into quarters.
Yeah, with the Kai'Sa prio falling off, really people realizing that it is actually a conditional pick, not just it doesn't go well with enchanter supports. So
we got the Xayah Aphelios matchup, which was some of the obviously Xayah was huge prio, and Aphelios was one of the other higher prio AEDCs coming up in the absence of the other power picks. The Rumble and Nico priority for solo lanes, very understandable. The Vi pickup, all these things in the Bard being pretty normal with what we're starting to see at least. Aatrox Syndra, all this is pretty typical in game one. Draft wise, pretty solid.
Yeah, draft wise pretty solid, and I think that's so people have been picking Bel'Veth randomly in the tournament, and I think that Bel'Veth on B4 was beautiful because you have Nico who's going to push in Syndra, you have Rumble who's going to push in Aatrox. You just get to live for free.
Yeah, the top lane prio is huge, and unlike JDG, Weibo knows how to play around top lane prio. So when you have a top Rumble getting kills, pushing Aatrox in perma, you're playing around it, not letting the enemy jungle invade you. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. So they win that game 1 in 29 minutes. With
pretty stellar performance.
And one thing I've picked up on Weibo, just during the Swiss stage, has been their vision. I think they've actually had some of the best vision control of the four teams in quarters. Just their ward placement, their commitment to fighting over vision, and trying to maintain vision and not just get vision, give it up. Like We saw a lot in the T1 and JDG series. And I think that's great because of these high playmaking junglers that are getting played and just needing to track them. It's going to go. I got some hot takes for when we talk about the finals, but I think that the finals is going to be very competitive, much more competitive than people are letting on. If Xiaohu shows up, if Xiaohu doesn't show up, it's going to be a mid gap, and Carrier and Faker is going to run the map.
I mean, T1 has to show up too when we get to that conversation as well. Ultimately, I know T1 has looked good, but finals is not their comfort zone.
No, and also it's going up to who shows up on the day, and Xiaohu might just need to show up for one day.
Yeah, he generally shows up for Faker.
Game 2, they draw the Belveth ban. They lose the game regardless. I think Weibo's red side draft here was complete trash. They drafted Kate Lux into Varus Ashe and lost the bot push.
Yeah, this is where we first see the bot lane meta just completely turn on its head, because with no Xayah, no Kaisa, no other bans on any ADCs, both teams are opting into double range bot lanes. Like BLG just straight locks in the Varus Ashe on 2-3. And at that point, they're full committed as soon as they saw the Caitlyn. So clearly scrims have been interesting to say the least. Because this was divergence from everything we'd seen. Even in
I think
T1 was showing with the set of Tom Kench and such.
I think the Callista being open, you could have gotten a Callista Caitlyn lane, and I think that would have been done better than Caitlyn Lux.
I think playing Callista into Ashe is not a great look. I know that there has been shows of success with it in some of the games that we'll talk about too, but I just do not think that's a great matchup really to play for.
It's not the best, but I think it's better than the Lux. Because you get the mobility, you get the save. Like, they banned the Rel, but you still had 5 Wukong open, so they still had dive potential there.
You'd have to play with I don't know if Chris can play what's the
also what might have changed that game is if the Shy took a less greedy TP spot and Bin didn't cancel it in that bot lane fight.
Yeah, that would have been huge.
That would have been massive.
The tempo of this game.
But Caitlyn Lux was just getting their fucking shit pushed in all lane by Varus Ashe. And then that Bin is amazing. Bin is the second best top laner in the world next to the Shy.
Bin has been beating him most of the year.
So this game ends because Weibo is going for Elder. Bin TPs in bot lane between the tier 1s and tier 2s and just sprints towards the base with a minion wave. And then Weibo has to leave the Elder to chase Bin, otherwise their game's going to end. Because Jax is just going to destroy their Nexus. And then BLG just takes the Elder and wins the game anyway. So it was a lose-lose. It was a great play by Bin, really, to force that.
Great presence of mind after he got pushed in all game.
And I don't think that Weibo played that comp quite well.
No, I think his comp sucks.
It's a lot of come to us. You got Maokai, you got Caitlyn, you got Lux, you got Azir, you got Aatrox. These are like sure, Azir and Aatrox can go forward, Maokai can go forward, but these champs work best when they're defending a zone.
Yeah, the space control comp. But
And
it's too awkward to play. Like if you try to even think about what you want team fights to look like, at the time it's just probably going to be the shy gets a crazy angle on two people of the enemy team, and you're just zoning the three off of that two that you're killing. And sure, if you have that split, very doable. A lot of great spells, actually easy to do. But the reality is, you're expecting to try and play weird angles on against a comp that wants to kind of just dive you. They don't want they want to come at you front to back and just dive straight at you. There's not that much, not much trickery to it.
And I didn't get it down, and I don't remember if Elk went on hit or lethality Varus.
He went to lethality.
He went lethality. I mean he has a jack, so that's okay.
Yeah, there's not a lot of armor coming out of the enemy team outside of the Maokai, so I can understand you're probably just aiming to poke out and destroy the Azir, Caitlyn Lux. So
Yeah,
makes sense. Plenty of DPS potential through the Vi and Jax Silas, honestly. This comp was like, I like the BLG draft into it. Picking up the Maokai ultimate is so.
The Silas pick was so clean. Was such a good pick. Because you get Lux ult, you get Maokai ult, you get a Azir ult, like you
get Caitlyn ult for if they're running out of a fight and you have the cooldown.
Yeah,
there's a lot in there.
You can definitely cook with that. And also I did have just in my notes, Zahu flashed on mid dive ?
Oh, yeah.
Like he was dead to rights, and then just flashed on top of Silas.
Burns it. Yeah. I want to say Crisp had a pretty completely egregious flash in this game as well at some point in the mid game. When he was getting sectioned off and dying for the team.
Well, I wanted to say it. He's been good. He hasn't been great.
Pardon me.
On definitely.
It was on that game.
One thing that I do want to mention, just because I've been seeing it all tournament and I haven't been seeing it to great effect. I know the theory behind it, and I know that it's very strong with zone control and poke comps, but I'm tired of the Maokai priority.
Yeah.
It hasn't been doing it. It just hasn't been doing it. Like,
I agree.
I think you could, like, you should just be grabbing fucking Wukong right there. Every time.
I'm glad you said it, because that's what I've been thinking too. Is like, I would be playing way more Wukong in some of these games.
Like, he doesn't have the vision control, which is, I think Weibo definitely highly prioritizes, which you can see in their game 3 first pick of Ashe.
Mm-hmm.
And now this draft was, it was 6.
The Graves counter pick was cool, especially to see the execution of it, because it seemed, conceptualizing it, I didn't really know how that was going to play out. I can understand why it could be a good matchup for Graves with the stacking armor and just having the range and the mobility with Aatrox. But yeah, the smoke screen in the middle of Q comboing on Aatrox is so annoying, because if they use their E like around Q1 and then you just drop smoke screen on them, Q2 and 3 are never hitting you. Ever. And so if you use your dash well, Q1's probably not hitting you either. And that means every other Q rotation, basically, or at least every 3 as Graves, you can completely outtrade the Aatrox. That is actually meant.
Oh, also the armor gain on if Aatrox throws a Q at you, you just E forward, get a ton of armor, and put a bunch of damage in his face. and he just lost a trade immediately.
Mm-hmm. It's not hard to keep that armor stacked up.
It's not. But let's walk through this draft. Also, that one they banned Jax, so good job, Weibo. I think Weibo has had some really good drafts. But this one is absolute sex. So you got Ashe first pick, which can go either slot, but most likely support. They go Callista, Vi. Poppy's fucking open. Slam the fucking Poppy down into a Callista Vi. Pick the Varus. Win the bot lane. They pick Callista on R3 into Ashe Varus. At that point, I'm like, can I just scale? Like,
no, they picked the Caitlyn on R3. They had
yeah.
the Callista showing up on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's their support pick was the Caitlyn into it. Not the Renata.
Yeah, that I found weird.
Not Renata was wide open.
And if you think about, and I suppose they didn't, it would be fine in lane against the Ashe Varus. And if you think about a Poppy engaging on you, obviously you don't see the soul lanes yet, but I don't know why this wouldn't be a Renata lock-in.
So it doesn't. So as we can tell by the JDGT1 series, it doesn't do very well in lane against Ashe Varus because they just like.
No, yeah, you'll go down.
Like, but as long as your jungler plays around you and can bail you out, which you have a Vi, and as long as Poppy's not there to match, you have Ashe Varus. You can 1Q, you can burn 2 flashes.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Then you farm your bot side and you come right back. And then the Aatrox on 4, safe blind pick by BLG, and then I don't like Syndra too often. I thought this was a beautiful Syndra game.
It matches the rest of the comp really well.
It does. It does.
It does what you want. The utility you need is more keep away, and she's great mid-range control between the ADCs and your front line.
Yeah, it's perfect. And then the Graves as the as just to let the Shy go like a wild goddamn dog.
Which is the planned counter pick, because obviously we can see the Aatrox priority rising. So it obviously looks like Aatrox and Rumble are the 2 highest priority, just like blankets top laners. And depending on who we're talking about, there's the other champions that are high priority. Like obviously Bin Jax is a problem, but it doesn't really matter so much against everyone else.
Yeah, like you're not going to be required to ban Jax against Zeus every game. I mean, he's good. He's got a good Jax, but
you don't want to give him a good and easy Jax game, but you don't have to ban Jax.
Yeah. And then BLG just, I think, throws the whole draft with the Akali on 5. I mean, there's not much more they could do considering that there were 6 mid lane bans that game.
Yeah. And basically all of Yagao's signatures are gone. The only thing, you know what actually I would have loved to see here, and Yagao should have drafted? Zoe. Because Yagao has a pretty mean Zoe. And Zoe would go really nicely with the Caitlyn to be more harassed for the backline. You're going against 3 immobile carries and a Graves.
A Zoe could have been pretty good. She's got some movement speed in her kit.
Just thinking about like playing a Akali into this comp in general, how painful that feels. I just feel like the Zoe could have been maybe better.
I feel like a Akali into Poppy Syndra is just bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and honestly, it doesn't feel good into the Ashe either. It's not hard for her to find you in your shroud, and then you have 2 champions that have, just skill shot CCs very easy to pick you there.
Yep. So my notes on that was the Jax ban was a great move. All ADCs in this game had Halo Blades.
Mhm.
Um, so that was all for the lane. But I'm just like I got Poppy exclamation points, Shy crushing top. Um, Ash and Varys did lose push at some point, which kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, this is weird interactions for sure.
But Weibo stole the Baron. Um, that might have been something. I don't know why I put that note there, but so just a quick thing: the Shy was up 40 CS at 10 minutes.
Yeah,
That's insane. Um,
brutal game.
and Weibo took first turret at 12 minutes. The there was a fight at Drake, and Weibo TP'd into BLG's base to stop the retreat and won the game off of that. So another game, this time by Weibo, won off of great TP decision making.
These games are quick and decisive too.
Yet these were scrappy. Like the early and mid games were scrappy. And then it's just one team sees an opening and takes it and wins the game. And then game 4, once again, they did not ban the Jacks. It wasn't first picked, and they also didn't pick it.
Yeah, they're obviously really valuing this Ash and Varys bot lane.
See, and they early picked the Syndra, and I don't like Syndra early rotation. I like her, like if she fit it, because a lot of people see her as a very just safe, balanced mid laner. Can go into Oriana. I think the only thing that can really go into Oriana right now is Azir or Nico.
Yeah, those are definitely the best matches for it.
Like Azir doesn't really win the lane, but I feel like he has um, just as much impact, if not just as much impact in the team fights, and has more playmaking capacity.
The big team fight ults definitely seem to be what's driving mid lane priority. You know, Shockwave, Pop Blossom, the Shuffle, or I'm not Emperor's Divide. I think it's the name of that spell for Azir, right?
Emperor's Divide is the wall.
Is the wall?
Yeah, Emperor's
Yeah,
Divide.
yeah. And then like the Syndra, I think is just being picked for her lane. The fact that she's a good laning control mage and has her like early game spike, so you have some pressure to play around if you want some playmaking. You know, so I almost feel like the rel is just maybe not enough. I'm kind of surprised that BLG went with the Sejuani over the rel, given that they had the Oriana already. Obviously, they win this game anyway. But
Yeah, but they wanted the Jacks, the Sejuani
yeah,
Jacks, to make sure that they can
yeah,
just fucking win any 2v2 they come across. Um,
for sure.
so like the rel's not bad. The Ash being left open as, oh, is it support? Is it ADC? Draws out the Caitlyn, the Callista ban. Um, Weibo, because the other team's bot lane is open, bans Tom Kench and Rakan, leaving Aphelios and Bard, which um, Bard's pretty good right now. Ask JDG how good Bard is right now. But the Quinn counterpick into the Jacks, it worked for all of about 12 minutes.
This is some KT roster tech that they had shown a lot of during the regular season. Ian has shown some Quinn games. So I could see why Weibo might have thought they had, the sops here, but it's Quinn, it's highly execution based and you fall behind. you don't even get to play the game.
Well, so he was ahead for quite a bit, but they let Jax free farm bot wave for almost 3 minutes, and Jax just caught right back up, got a bunch of turret plates, and was right back in it. Like they literally left Jax alone. They were fighting 5v4 throughout the map. Crisp was dying because I guess he hates Heimerdinger, and he picked it because he wanted to make the series interesting.
Yeah,
he was hitting a lot of stuns. That's the thing. He was doing stuff on it, but it's like you could have picked a number of champions that have some goddamn range CC, and just done so much better. Crisp played like shit that game. But he also played it like really well. But he was just all over the place. He was just in the wrong position at the wrong time every time. But then he would hit a stun and they would get a pick off of it. And it was, or he would hit a stun and his team was there to fucking follow up.
He just died so much early.
Yeah, he threw a lot.
Yeah. And I just wanted to also note that as we get into the conversation on Game 5, I cannot believe that the Shy is willing to play Ornn in Game 5 and X9 doesn't play Ornn in one game in their series.
It's fucking incredible. We'll talk about Game 5 here in just a second. Something I wanted to pick up that I saw throughout the series, but really saw it in this one because they were starting to just like go like fall behind, is that every time there was an objective up, Weiwei fucking went for it. He looked for some way to try and get in there and get a fucking smite off. And I want to applaud him for that, because
if Weiwei played for JDG, JDG would have won 3-1.
If 369 didn't take this opportunity to bet $1 million on fucking T1 and experiment with all his new picks he's going to try next year.
Well, I just like, yeah, when we get to that, like for sure, but I cannot believe like Weiwei was like, that's the thing about Weibo in this series, especially, like they were playing for the tempo on every objective, even if they had to sort of finagle, like not really actually play for it because they couldn't. Like they were resetting on the timers, like they were going to be able to be there. You know, it wasn't going to be like, we're going to show up in the last 30 seconds where it's kind of viable. We can, we've already lost good position. They were like, all right, we're going to be there. We're going to have this, we're going to set up around it, and we're either going to give it because we can tell they're stronger and going to have a good angle, or we're going to sneak this shit out because and we're going to have the better position. They're not going to bother.
Mm-hmm.
But they really wanted to play for the tempo and the timings of the map. They played an early game, you know, and that really, and then they went and showed completely different priority for Game 5.
Dude, Game 5. Okay, if the Game 3 draft was sex, this is like
this is clinical.
This is surgical.
Yeah.
They threw so many curveballs in this draft that just threw BLG off. So they banned the Jax Jarvan. They banned the Silas. They swap it up. They banned the Silas. Rumble, Orion, and Nico is banned on the other side. They first pick the Maokai. Which I'm like, excuse me, why are you first picking Maokai?
Here we go again, right?
And then, but that draws BLG into picking the Jace, because BLG is now afraid of, okay, if they're going to pick Maokai, they could go Jace, like Jace Ashe, 2-3 and fuck us.
Well, the Jace Maokai is really popular all summer too.
Yeah, it's really strong. You got the saplings with do damage and slow, and then the Jace poke, but also with how much poke is coming out of the bot lane.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they were just really scared of just going up against a full strong poke comp with that much zone control. So they go Jace Sejuani, which, okay, I get it, I get it. But then Weibo just follows it up with Callista Renata, like, and
like, and they want to really hurt themselves with the Cassante, and you're looking at 3 champions that are going to walk into a Renata and hate everything about their existence.
yeah,
Like, obviously, at least you have Cassante who can W through it, which is nice. But the Sejuani is actually getting caught up in something like that is actually a really big deal.
and
Kind of a problem for the comp.
yeah. So and also, I don't think that's enough damage.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you snowball the fuck out of that Jace, which, if your plan was to snowball the fuck out of that Jace, why didn't you throw some more mid lane bans? Okay.
Yeah. Gao not being able to play his year really is hurting them in this draft, especially.
Yeah, and then Weibo bans Rakan Ashe. So BLG goes Caitlyn, and then you said the Shy picking Ornn in game 5, like the premier carry of the team throughout this tournament, says in game 5 of the quarterfinals, you know what? You guys got this. I'll tank it for you.
I think Wava being able to pull this game out with their highest ceiling performers so far in the tournament being on shit like Maokai Ornn is pretty good sign for them ultimately.
Yeah. So almost every because we're recording this a bit later than we usually do. It's a Wednesday. We normally record this on a Sunday. I have seen a lot of podcasts that have come out, and I just don't get it. I'm like, did they watch the same games? Did these people who are analysts and pros, and they are saying T1 is going to 3-0 Weibo just because T1 beat JDG. And this is T1's meta. But you can also see, like, this
Weibo
meta.
is the best of the Chinese teams at this double range nonsense, I think. Because it's a bot lane.
Yeah, I mean,
out of Light Crisp, Elk on. Obviously, we saw JDG missing, or Ruler missing it. They definitely don't have it right now. And then Gala and sorry, I don't think they just want to play this shit.
yeah, but imagine, so like Rakan wasn't banned for this until Weibo banned Rakan. So imagine a Rakan or an Ornn slips through. T1's worried about the Shy. They're worried about Wei. They're worried about about getting their champs and trying to force, because the draft is it's a tug of war. It's a tug of war. It's a chess game. It's a mind game. The draft is my favorite part of League of Legends.
I don't see Weibo having the same kind of permas that JDG have in general. Like, there's not like a single champion you're banning against the Shy. There's no Jax equivalent. There's no Rakan equivalent on this against.
No, but you ban Rumble against him 100%.
Well, it's just because that's the meta.
But
You're
also,
meta stuff.
his Rumble is his Rumble is clean.
Yeah, the Rumbles. Rumble's such a
Because
great champ.
yeah, because we didn't even talk about that in game one, how he got almost 100 to 0'd in an enemy jungle level 1, went back to lane,
Got fed 3 kills.
survived, and then comes back and is up in CS and up in kills at 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, that game got completely turned on its head early. He and Weiwei just ran it. They ran that game. The Velveth Rumble topside combo was way too strong.
So yeah, I think that like game 5. What do we got here real quick before we, because we want to talk about T1 JDG before we talk about Weibo T1. Basically from this, Weibo just fucking out team fought BLG. Light had an awesome double kill in the bot lane. Lux built Crown, being the only AP on the team.
I can understand that it's hard to get knocked off in this comp if you don't if you're not getting hit by like saplings. But yeah, I agree. I don't know what the choice for that was.
That's an obvious Leandri's angle, since you're the only AP on the team. Build Leandri's in CDR boots, and
I think you can make the case for Ludens for just popping Callista.
yeah, but that would be your only. That'd be like your only target. But also Callista drain tank. So if she doesn't die, she heals back up. She hops on fucking Raptors for a second. I think Weibo won this draft so hard.
Yeah.
I think the Silas ban into the Maokai first pick really made them think that they were going to be going like Ash Varus, or Jace, and I mean the Silas ban is also good because they can't take Maokai ult. But I think it really like forced their hand a little bit, and it was, being that this was a front to back team comp with the Ornn, I think that's really good for Maokai. Like if you're playing a pick comp and Maokai is your guy going in, I'm sorry, but
no, it's not a nice way to play the game.
If he's going in with an Ornn to lock down a Cassante or a Sejuani to keep them from getting to the back line, worth.
Well, even the Azir fights nicely with Maokai because you can shuffle in on what he's ulted and set up the team fight how you want it that way.
Well, you can even use the Azir, not even to set up team fights, and just use it for peel in this. Whereas T1, definitely this Faker was making some fucking plays.
Yeah, no, Faker and Owner ran that series.
Now
we've kind of more or less gone through Weibo BLG, so I guess we can kind of get into this whole JDG T1 since we've been chomping at it already for the first 20 minutes easy.
So yeah, but before we get into the drafts, I do want to say my overall opinion of both teams' strength coming out of this 4-game series was JDG didn't play that well.
I just feel like JDG didn't play their game, like the game they've been playing all year. They didn't even seem to try to.
They did in game 1.
Oh, that was the worst of it, I think. Like,
and they got
a top lane prio matchup, and then they literally don't even have, they have so little comprehension of how they play around top prio, they lose the game around having top prio within 3 minutes. And I think that's the biggest weakness.
Oh yeah, true. Like their game being weak side top and strong side bot.
play towards the bot side because like they basically do try like they start this game playing towards the bot side. Like they start bot side with the Vi clear and then path towards let's see where it is and then Kanavi crosses. Oh no, he's already dead. I'm just trying to see if Kanavi is
Oh,
pathing top before.
where owner
Is.
clears
Yeah, he
enemy
literally
top
doesn't
side
even
and then
know.
comes in behind the rumble. Yeah, they like, how do you have no vision of that?
Yeah, how are you not warding for the late invade? Owner's been playing for it. You're not going to ward for owner's starts or against the late invade. You're just going to start bot blind and path towards top and act like they're not going to punish the fact that you're going to try and crash wave 3 and you're not even there to cover him on wave 3. Like what? They have no idea how to play around top prio. And this is a rumble with ignite flash. He doesn't have teleport lit, so you can't let him die here.
Yeah, he has to get that like
He has to crash that wave. And you have to cover him for it because he's going to have the priority no matter what. He's rumble. And JDG doesn't know what to do with top prio. The 369 is dead in 3 minutes. You know, he's doing what that champion does in that position, but they literally don't know what to do about that, and they lose the game because I would have really loved to see them play the Rumble in the jungle if they really want to try and figure out a Rumble draft for JDG. Because you can still put Kanavi on a weak side top lane and just use and deny the pick that way if you want to tweak the draft. You know, I think it's still plenty fine. The champion scales well enough.
So I even think that some of their like T1 was out team fighting them.
Oh yeah.
So the big play that was like it was a big call out during the game was Baker was at there was a 20-minute bot fight around Drake. And then Baker TPs to bot tower. Because he's top river, like kind of like skirmishing, walks away, TPs to bot river to come up on the flank because they dove under tower to kill somebody. I think it was Zeus.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and he teleports to the tower.
Yeah, and then comes up and just shields and does a ton of damage and turns the fight.
Shockwave. But this is JDG also taking this fight 5k down.
Yeah, T1 was up 3k at 14 minutes. Zeus was up 70 CS at 22 minutes.
And I think that's one thing JDG definitely does. They don't like avoid the fights while they're down. They still take them if they know they have to. So this game kind of goes to shit real quick. I don't know this, and I think this game kind of skewed their perceptions of what's viable. Like the game was just so fucked so early. They just move away from like the Zaya, Alistar, the kind of more typical bot lanes that were running throughout the early parts of the tournament. Even though like Ruler doesn't really mess up huge in this game, the game is just over before he gets to play.
No, like as an ADC player, there's nothing you can do at this point.
And Ruler, I'm not gonna say Ruler doesn't have mistakes. Completely agrees. Game 3, and I can't stand the Zeri pick in Game 4. But games 1 and 2, I don't really.
He even got ahead on the so JDG and really in everything should have won that game, and then Kanavi just starts throwing.
They should have won Game 3 and 4. Ultimately.
Well, real quick, Game 2 is the game that they did win, which I did really like their draft. I did not like the Maokai on 4 by T1, because then they're once again playing that come to us. Like you need to have objective control for that comp to work at all points. And
I think
JDG was just showing up to objective first, and then T1 has to fight into them with a Maokai, Azir, and an Ashe and a Caitlyn. and it's just like that's not the strengths. So
Definitely. I think this one was definitely the best example of JDG playing their game. Even if the level 1 went poorly for them early and they
Mhm.
had a few missteps around the bot lane execution early, where you can see where missing ruler are not the best on this double range bot lane style, they still set up for the mid game and just out team fighted T1 in this game. At least you see
Oh
369
yeah.
being the best team fighting top laner. You know, you see the
Oh,
pieces of board this team was strong on.
I had Cassante and Senna as MVPs because
Yeah.
after 20 minutes, those two were running the fights.
Wasn't this the game that Kanavi actually kind of okay in?
On the Vi, yeah, he had a double kill bot lane to start it off because they did a 2v2 kill bot lane, but Keria had the flash for it, and no, it was a 3v2 bot kill, and then he cleans up the Maokai and the Ashe.
He just kind of does his job.
He does his job in this one. He did nothing outstanding from Kanavi from what I saw.
Yeah, this is
the biggest.
A lot of work. Actually, no, Kanavi does not play this one too crazy great. Yeah, this is a nice show.
The biggest thing I could see was that JDG was getting to objectives sooner, which was forcing T1 into bad skirmishes, and JDG, because there wasn't really full team fights a lot in this one. There was a lot of like 4v4s and 3v3s, and JDG was just winning those. It almost felt like they weren't winning as much as T1 was not playing those fights well and not playing to their strengths.
I actually think this was just a good example of like this was the JDG doing what they normally did. You know, it was just one of those games where they are just a little bit ahead every single point. You know, on this game at least, all cylinders were kind of firing. You know, and I think the biggest issue we had with JDG on this series, especially, is like Knight is invisible the entire series. He doesn't completely grief any game, but he doesn't do anything significant in any game. 369 at least played game 2 really well. Ruler at least did his jobs games 1 and 2. Navi.
Kanavi played I think Kanavi played solid the first 3 games, and then like
I can't forgive the first game, man. I know it's
so it's not
too,
it's not just on him to ward that fucking top side. No, that's not on him.
It's not, but I feel like to not be covering the third wave. I don't know. To me, that just feels so egregious. Like he full clears bot side. Like I don't know. To me, if you're gonna start bot side, I would do like blue gromp red. You know, I would be third camp on top side for level 3 at the absolute latest.
Yeah, be on Krugs at the very least while he's pushing that in, so you can respond.
Yeah, it's so important for the Rumble.
So yeah,
it's the coaching staff too. Honestly,
that's a mid play, but also, I don't think it would have mattered. I think that they were doomed to lose that game because if you look at 369's Rumble ults, they were
for sure.
They were not very good.
They really should have. I think it would have been so cool to see. Like I would have been fine with them losing the game if they tried the Rumble Jungle. Even still, I just feel like nothing would have looked worse than what they got.
So I will say this about game 3. I don't think JDG deserved to win that game. I think T1 deserved to win that game because of just the plays that T1 were making to just end team fights within a matter of seconds. Just the layering of ults was
Kanavi actually played this game
well. So good. Keria also smurfed. Like
no owner smurfed this game.
a lot of T1 smurfed on this game 3, I
Well,
think.
I know. I think owners engage at the dragon where he flashes the ash ult and gets the huge rel engage on three of them was so big.
At the Drake fight.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and
where
obviously
he
Baker
just goes in, Rel ults 3, Faker goes in, fucking Emperor's
huge
divides them,
shuffle.
and
Yeah,
then Renata ult is already on its way when all that starts.
this was the game Kanavi actually did play well. He did everything he could here. This one, I do not like the Renekton pick. Here is another great
No, the
example of
Talia and the
why
Renekton pick, I think the Talia pick is
Talia's
okay.
fine.
It's fine.
Mhm.
It's Callista, Rel, Azir. It's fine. In theory, it's got the zone control. I don't think it's that strong.
And
Personally,
I bet I believe that 369 can get a CS advantage against Zeus on a tank in this matchup on a different champion and still have a better team fighting champion than Renekton for later because they're not playing for any sort of pressure or strength
dude,
that Renekton
I would have
actually has.
loved Ornn in that game. They had Varus,
Yeah,
Ashe, Wukong, Talia. Like they have enough damage.
I just like I understand that Cassandra is banned in this game, but like I just don't understand how the JDG coaching staff looks at the success they had in game two and then still wants to try and be playing their top side around like this Renekton around the Aatrox. Like you guys should be playing your own game. That's not how you won the LPL and MSI. Why are you trying to match 369 in this top lane matchup against Zeus and stuff with the Aatrox
I mean,
Renekton?
maybe he said I can do it.
Well, I mean, because he's being asked to, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Like
but
the
he's
coaching
asked
staff
to.
needs
But
to tell him he
if
doesn't need to.
he's saying he can do it, you got to trust that he's saying he can do it. If he's that good, because he is a good player.
After the Rumble game one, I just think you don't. I think after games 1 and 2, that's enough.
After Rumble game once, they realized he can't play Rumble. They just banned Rumble every game.
Well, it's not even about him. You know, it's about like we can't play for the top side. That's not how we understand the map. You know, the success we had is when we brought the top side into the team fights and he team fought for us with the strength that he has with the champion and his play style and his own mechanics. And we're going to remove tools from him, make him play Renekton. Like, what are we doing, JDG?
I mean, aren't
Ash
tanks
again.
aren't tanks okay into Rumble? Are they just that scared of Zeus playing Rumble?
You can't play the tanks into Rumble. He will abuse them with priority. But like the Aatrox, I'm sure you could play a tank into Aatrox.
Yeah, because they took his armor shred out of his passive, right? I mean, out of his because his passive does magic damage now, and his he no longer grants armor pen.
And just use the Orin W to negate the Aatrox W and have your. I don't know. That sounds to me fine.
Fucking Gragas.
Yeah, it's better than
He's played Gragas before into other matchups. He's played it into Jax. He can do it into Aatrox.
And these are champions that he can go down on and be behind on and still have good impact on the game with. And I think that's what JDG seems to lose sight of in this series, especially. Like they kept trying to put the top side prio-ish stuff, and they kept playing these stupid bot lanes.
It was still a scrappy game 3. I don't agree that they should have won game 3. I think T1 is playing a better game and had a stronger draft, even though JDG did have Varus, Ashe, Wukong, which is really strong. I mean, but then you have 369 Renekton, and
they have map control and a decent lead, and then Ruler gets not a lead, but they've got the map control. They've missed way too many dragons in almost this entire series.
Yeah, it was a scrappy series, and then Faker decides to shove his fist up Ruler's ass.
No, it's Zeus. He finds this weird random angle and walks through the river and gets the Varus all in, and that's how they get Baron and completely swing this game.
No, this is the one where Faker fucking flash a QEs onto Ruler and then ults him in the mid wave.
That's later.
Yeah, but that's when the fucking shit fucking that's that.
No,
that
this
was
game
in.
hits. No, this game hits the fan at 20 minutes when Ruler is just recalling in mid lane, and Aatrox walks through a small gap in vision and finds an all-in angle and kills him. And at 20 minutes, and they get Baron, and that's where they snowball the rest of the game from. And JDG still claws it back to a point where yes, the Faker all-in happens, but if the initial catch doesn't happen at 20 minutes, JDG probably just rolls the rest of that game with the tempo and control they have.
Oh yeah, I just had a Ruler caught shopping because he didn't
Yeah.
see the Aatrox walk up to him.
And I just feel like missing on Ashe this game was completely worthless. It just did nothing that
I don't think he hit a substantial arrow all game.
I think there were one or two, but it wasn't enough. It's play style,
Yeah.
Now we get into this game 4, and
dude, this one I have, dude, just like my page is full. So this one was JDG on blue side, which so far blue side has won every game in the quarterfinals.
And you're locking in a Bel'Veth before you even know your top matchup.
Dude,
you're just picking an Aatrox blind.
Dude, that's what I was sitting here.
More top laners.
My Bel'Veth is I have Bel'Veth without locking in pushing lanes. Like Bel'Veth on 2, and then you pick Aatrox, and you're like, oh yeah, we don't know what their mid laner is. We don't know what their
How is this not a Wukong? How is this not a Wukong? He's up.
He's good in the Jarvan. If that's your reasoning for picking Bel'Veth on 2,
Orianna Wukong mid jungle, like that sounds money.
If your reasoning for picking like this Bel'Veth on 2 after they go Jarvan Varus is, oh, Bel'Veth is good into Jarvan and Varus is immobile. You have Vi, who is pretty even into Jarvan. And then you have Wukong, who's pretty good in the Jarvan. And then the blind Aatrox for 369, where you're like, Cassante is open. Cassante is open. He's wide open.
Like, what are we actually doing here, JDG?
Like you want to play Zeri Lulu bot lane? That's what you want to do? You fucking lock in Cassante. You fucking lock in a fucking Gragas. You fucking lock in an Ornn. You lock in somebody who can be a wall and provide something that's fucking annoying and has engage and CC.
I have a thought for you. Instead of Zeri Lulu, Jinx TK.
Seeing the Yone, yeah, I'm about it.
And then you think of, all right, cool, the Bard. That I know it's the last pick, but the Bard pick, like, I would play TK into Bard. I know the Devourer is not his W anymore, but you still have a lot of utility. Deny the stun, to deny the stasis.
Yeah, wait, there's a Jarvan in the game too. Why didn't they pick TK?
Pick out the ADC out of the hole, right? Like, that's why when I send that message to you, like, I cannot believe TK was literally 0% presence in this series, because it's good for fucking Missing too. Missing can play something that's engaged, that has the safety side to it as well, but can play something more in his wheelhouse. Like, I would have picked Jinx TK right here.
Like,
you have the range, and then if you think about how the game went, where Zeri got 3 kills early, imagine a Jinx is hitting an item and a half or 2 items at 15 minutes in this game. How hard you run that game.
That has a Cassante and a Tom Kench.
Mm-hmm. Or even if the Cassante's not there, but you've got the Wukong.
I'm just trying to think of something other than the Aatrox, like a fucking Gragas fucking like a blind Gragas there isn't bad. If you want to if you want to put 369 on the weak side, like you want a neutralizing topside champion, Gragas is really good for that. And he plays it. Like if would T1 have picked a Yone into a Gragas? Probably not.
And then we get JDG bans Poppy every game 2 series. I wonder if they feel like they can't play it, because like I wouldn't mind 369 on Poppy in games that like you feel like you don't have other options if they're banned out, you know?
Oh, I
don't know.
I feel like they're banning the Poppy to see if T1 doesn't ban the Kalista.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it's a bad draft by JDG, and to be fair, this game was actually very close.
It was
until Kanavi. So one thing, Bard portals are OP. Hey kitty, don't hit the microphone. It's very sensitive.
Navi just decided that I kept making the joke when I had this conversation that JDG has a 100% win game 5. And I think Kanavi knew that. He's like, you know what? I can't let it happen. There can't be a game 5. They were looking good at 12 minutes, and he's like, I can stop this.
Hail Hydra.
No problem. Hail Hydra. He just ran it down 3 times in a row and just completely.
Which he was actually having not up for how this game was set up so far. He was actually not having a bad game.
No, they had it in their hands. They had a good spot to be in, and then he manages to not die taking the portal, but then he presses R in the Jarvan ult under tower.
I mean, as a Belveth newbie who's been
form, when you have Herald form, not just like normal form, Herald form. Oh, it just hurts me.
It hurts. You know what hurts the most? When there's 3 Azir soldiers around the dragon pit, and he just walks through them. Walks 100-0, walking past Azir soldiers.
I saw that happen, and then I saw Knights shockwave just Azir when there were 3 T1 members gangbanging his team just above him in the river, and I'm just like, get me out of here. I don't know who any of these players are, but this is hurting every part of my soul. Like, Ruler, you completely fucked game 3, but like, oh my god, how is this what this team has ended its season on?
See, and T1 had some really, really good plays here that I don't want to diminish by how bad some JDG plays were. Guma fucking Yushi 2v1'd Ruler and 369 with on-hit Varus, dodging everything with an auto attack in each step. It was one of the craziest micro plays I've ever actually seen, of not just dodging Aatrox Q and W, but dodging Zeri W, Zeri autos, all while auto attacking, casting his abilities, and it was one of the cleanest things I've ever fucking seen in my life. It was so good.
Now, T1, I'm glad T1 has been playing as well as they are, since they're progressing like this through the event. It's great that it's not just like, people falling down in front of them, so to speak, but it is a shame that game 4 and how JDG goes out of this tournament looks this sloppy at this point. Just because, like, obviously we don't like it when series ends on one player just making 3 mistakes in a row. That feels pretty bad
And
for
it
everybody.
wasn't just Kanavi making the throw, but it was
But it was mostly Kanavi.
Well, I mean, it was
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah. Okay.
like that Guma 2v1 play. If he dies there and they have two other players on the map, that fight turns.
For sure.
Like they're like it was a mixture of T1 playing well and JDG not playing well.
Any performance less by T1 would not have been enough
Oh no, it would not
in
have
a
been
lot of
enough.
circumstances. Definitely.
Um,
But it is just so in the contrast of like Kanavi, especially in that game 4 moments. It's just like, wow. It's funny, like when I was watching the Domco stream, they were talking about how crazy high level the series was and how good the quality was. And then like JDG T1, right? And then that moment in exchange happens, and they're like, "Oh my god! Oh jeez, that was literally the worst play in the semifinals."
yeah,
Like that entire
oh,
like collection from like 14 minutes to 17 minutes.
I think the single best play and the single worst play happened in this in the matter of 30 seconds of each other, and that was Kanavi walking through the Sand Soldiers, and then the Guma Yushi 2v1.
I think the Faker scoop on Ruler in Game 3 was like, I know it's not as mechanically impressive, but it was the bigger play.
See, I think I'm going to argue that this was the bigger play because this was the ADC solo taking out the two strongest members of the enemy team. Where if they were able to turn and go down that way, that whole fight would have turned, and we could have had a game 5. Yeah. I mean, we could also argue that the engage and dragon, where the rail leaps forward, the Talia wall comes down, the rail leaps forward, Azir comes in, the Renata ult's there at the same time, and that was the best team play. So I think the best and the worst individual play happened within 30 seconds of each other.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
Because like that Faker scoop on Ruler was insane, and
it won game 3.
It won game 3. This one, that Guma 2v1, won game 4.
Yeah.
And so this is what I had that's so spicy, is because JDG didn't play to JDG expectations. BLG didn't throw as hard as JDG did. So I think Weibo had the harder series.
I think that's fair. I think the moments that JDG collapsed on were way meaningful. Like they were colossal.
I think all 9 games were very scrappy and close at times. I think except for 2 of Weibo's wins and 1 of T1's wins. I think T1's game 1. I think Weibo's game 1 and game 3, the Graves game.
Mm-hmm.
I think those were not close.
But I don't think like game 2 and game 4 were also not that close. Where BLG won against Weibo.
No. They were they took longer.
Yeah.
And same thing with T1. T1's loss by JDG was way longer of a game than any of T1's wins.
Mm-hmm.
And about it's about the same for the BLG wins. Whereas the Weibo's wins were much more decisive, and it's scrappy, it's over.
Yeah, except for Game 5.
I do not have Game 5's time written down, though.
I want to say Game 5 was the one that was like pretty odd minutes.
Yeah, that one didn't even feel that close at all. I think that one kind of snowballed. So Weibo's wins were all kind of snowbally. I think it's going to be a very, very close finals. I think it's not going to be a very close finals if Xiaohu shows up.
Yeah, it's interesting how I think these teams will, like, their strengths will interact, because, I think the owner Faker combo, like the mid jungle duo of T1 was really powerful in the GDG that was in the team place segment. Like, they were just making plays that the team was just winning off of. I think Zeus versus Shy is going to be really fun.
It's going to be a good matchup.
See the Shy's,
but I think I think the Shy's got some tricks up his sleeve for Zeus. I think the Quinn's off the table.
I hope so. I think
the fucked up thing is it worked for 12 minutes, and then they just let Jax free farm and catch back up.
There. The data is there. Like, they can see how the matchup played out at least, but I just don't know. I'm worried about the bot lane. Like Crisp is, at least they can play the double range bot lane. But yeah, I had no idea, man. This one's gonna be wild.
Like I don't know who's gonna win. I'm gonna predict Weibo just because I'm not gonna bet against Weibo ever again. And I
want Weibo as the LPL stan and as a huge Xiaohu fan.
See, either way, Dom loses.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I can still win.
I want T1 to win but I want them to earn it. Like, I don't want Weibo to. I don't want Xiaohu fucking playing like he's some mid-tier mid laner. Like, I don't want it just to be the fucking the Sheshi game.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see Game 5 RNG versus 1 Xiaohu MSI 2021 or 2022.
I honestly think that either team can win. It's going to be very dependent on prep. I think Weibo has shown great vision control the entire tournament and can keep an eye on owner to prevent the mid jungle duo from doing a thing, but also with how much carrier roams, I think keeping an eye on him is going to be just as important.
Yeah, we'll probably see, honestly, a lot of the Ashe for the sake of the hawk shot.
The Ashe for the sake of the hawk shot. I want to see an Ashe Callista lane.
We're gonna see Bard fucking bans, I can already tell you.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see Bard bans. I don't know if the Rakan Prio is still gonna be there for the bans because he's moved down to phase 2 bans.
As long as it's not missing.
As long as it's not missing. We could see the Nautilus, and so the T1 have been steady on phase 2 banning Nautilus and Blitzcrank, and Nautilus and Renata in phase 2.
You're going to see Renata banned against Crisp a lot this season, series 2. That might end up being a new phase 1 ban for 1.
Yeah, it's gonna be phase 1. So you can't give the Shy Rumble. You just can't. You have to permaban that because he will get priority and he plays it extremely well. I think he probably is the best Rumble in the world. Excluding some solo queue one trick out there that's like 1200 LP challenger with Rumble. But
we're going to see a lot of solo lane bans be the main crux, like the first two, right? Because like Nico, Orianna, Rumble, maybe Azir, but I doubt
Red
it.
side's going to have to ban Nico. So wait,
Rumble.
And Rumble. So let me see here, because I saw the coin toss earlier. So let's see who is on what side.
Weibo has blue side.
Weibo has blue side.
Mm-hmm. So does red side just ban Orianna, Rumble, Nico?
I was in from yeah. So red side bans Rumble because it's T1 red side. So it's Rumble, Renata, Nico.
Okay, and then they're gonna take Weibo will take Orianna on 1v1.
Will they though?
Why wouldn't they?
Because they can take Ashe.
I know, but they'll want to deny the Orianna taker, and I think that's way more important.
Why? He's just as insane on Azir.
But the champion's not as strong. And
so it'll be
Knights still beat him. Like the game they won, it was still Orianna into Azir, JDG. And then they can't. And if that's the case, T1 is banning no junglers, so you have your pick of the litter for what jungler you want to play with the Orianna. And if the Renata's banned in that case, sure.
I mean,
but
T1's been giving over the Orianna just fine.
Mm-hmm. But they lost to it as well.
They did lose to it as well, but they also lost to a better draft.
Yeah, and I think Orianna fits into a lot of good drafts.
Yeah, but I think so. I still think it'll be Rumble, Renata, or it'll probably in order. It'll probably be Rumble, if blue, because I don't think they're going to ban it on blue side because they'll be like if you leave it open, we'll first pick it. So
and then
if blue side doesn't ban Rumble, then red side will ban Rumble. We could see a Caitlyn first phase ban by Weibo. So it could be Caitlyn first ban, then Rumble, What would Weibo ban next?
Kalista, I think. Kalista, or like if they want to leave the Ashe up, they can. I think at this point you go Kalista, Ashe, or Varus, depending on what they think their priorities are for what they want to play.
Weibo's been. Well, they banned Jarvan on that one, but they don't ban it on this one. Maybe they banned Jarvan on blue side.
I can see that too.
And then because then they can leave the Orianna open. If they ban Jarvan, they'll probably ban Nico. Who else would I ban if I was Weibo?
Probably a top laner. Otherwise, you pick another thing that you think Faker's going to fall back to push him further off comfort. But he is champion Ocean, so that might not be worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's the meme right now. He's only played 3 champions this whole tournament, but it's like the guy's been playing for 10 fucking years at a fucking high level for most of it. You can't ban the guy out.
I think the biggest thing you can aim to do is push him off of the role he wants to play for his team. And if you remove some of the playmaking tools, is when he will have fewer impact. Like Azir and Oriana both are huge playmaking champions. Silas can also have a lot of playmaking capability depending on which ults are available to him.
Yeah, that's 3 bans right there. You can't first phase all that.
No, but if you're pushing him to a Silas and his ults aren't great, that's fine. You know, that's the third champion he's played. So if the Azir is removed, and if I'm Weibo, I would be picking that away if I'm not playing the Orion. If I'm not playing.
I mean, Xiao can play fucking Silas. Like,
Xiao can play anything.
As long as he can fucking play. Jesus Christ.
Xiao is. Like, I don't know. Xiao is still a beast. He's got it in him. The ceiling is there. And he is.
I hope he's just been saving it all for the finals. I like Xiao.
I want to see the Galio come out.
I want to see the fucking set mid.
I could actually see. I wouldn't think like Galio Nocturne would be bad right now. I think that might be
no, I would actually be insane right now.
Nocturne is good. I don't know if they'll pick that up, but fucking Galio Nocturne could be dope.
That would actually be really insane right now with the lack of hard CC on bot lanes. With just a pure lack of peel down there, like
that spell shield, you only really ever have to dodge one major spell.
I mean, if the Ashe is good, the volley and the arrow land very closely together.
That's fair, but if you're eating both of that,
yeah,
that means there's a lot more coming.
Yeah, that could be an angle. Could be an angle for both teams too. That's the fucked.
Yeah, no, I mean these teams play kind of similar in a lot of ways. You have a very utility oriented mid lane. You've got these kind of mechanical top lanes. You've got bot lanes that like the double range setup. I think Keria is definitely more versatile than Crisp, but Crisp is a world champion and Keria isn't. So, we'll put some respect on the name at least. I do favor the T1 bot lane though, for sure.
We also can't forget that they already pulled out the Senna Nyla once.
Mm-hmm. And we could see TK variances come back in. Like, I don't know if the engaged supports are dead yet. I don't really have that information confirmed. I think you can play that on it to angles.
God, I'm just looking at the LNG T1 draft, and I can't believe T1 got away with that fucking draft. Like, I can't. But that draft from both teams in that game 3 is like makes me want to gag.
There's been some. My biggest regret with how this tournament is going to play out is I feel like once revisionists have had their way with it and such with the results-based analysis, we're really not going to have as much appreciation for the upsets that came through on this bracket, because so many people after quarterfinals were over were just like, oh yeah, T1 is just favored in JDG, and it's like you can't really make that statement rational, right? Like, we can't look at T1, who has failed to win anything this entire year, who went on like a 9-series lose streak, and who
without Faker.
And got completely dismantled in summer finals because of 2 bans against Faker. We can't sit there and look at that team and be like, oh yeah, no, they're favored against a team who's never lost anything.
So
that's what the conversation turned into.
So that's a lot of so you go on Reddit and see a lot of that shit. I've heard from Dom's Cast and Monty and Thorin that's like the T1 fans on Reddit are like, of course they were going to win, they were never going to lose. And it's like when I saw
go to the pick'ems, and the pick'ems were 75%.
Well, yeah, it's fanboys.
I know, but like that's not all fanboys. That's all the people who are watching esports enough to care to vote, right?
Yeah, but people see the T1 name, and people who maybe only watch Worlds, like they don't know who JDG is, but they know who T1 is, and they've known who T1 is for years. They know Faker for years, so they vote for that. But I am not a fan of a team has been winning all year long means that they will continue to be good. Because as this entire elimination stage has shown us is, well, one, we need a loser's bracket. And two, I hate the term recency bias, because if a team played good last week and another team didn't play good last week, but 6 months ago those were swapped, and for the past 6 months it's been that way, where one team's playing really good and the other team's not playing very good, and then last week they swapped and the other team was playing good and the other one wasn't, I'm going to go, okay, who's playing better right now? And it can be called recency bias. I don't like looking at just the games and looking at the win-loss of it, because yeah, T1 looked good against LNG, but LNG also looked like absolute fucking dogfire.
Yeah, no, LNG looked like they just swapped with Team Liquid and let them play under their IGNs.
Whereas the JDG KT games, KT looked solid, and JDG just did JDG things. They got to a certain point, they got their items, they won a couple team fights, the game's over.
Yeah, but I think that conversation on like the JDG KT series is still weird to me too, because I watched that series and I see game one JDG has a basically unplayable draft. That tells me nothing about teams really. It just says like this is really bad drafting. Games 2 and 3 looked like KT could never, ever, ever, ever win. It looked like there was no competition between those teams at all. And in game 4, looked like JDG didn't.
Those games were close, and KT was ahead a little bit, and then it was just
game 2 was not close.
Well, that was
an absolute blowout.
That was that Viego game that never should have been.
And I think game 3 wasn't close either. Like, I really don't think game 3 was close. I think game 3, JDG had a game plan and was never even pushed from their game plan, and they ran the entire game from beginning to end, even if it wasn't like open and shut 24-minute game.
See,
he couldn't do anything in it.
I didn't see it. I didn't see that too much. I saw that there were some skirmishes that tried to happen. JDG pulled away from them. They didn't let KT skirmish them, which was the smart thing, and they just waited till they got their items, and the game was close in terms of game state and gold and items, but then they just out team fought them with their items. But what I saw in this T1 series is, because I picked JDG to win. I thought JDG would win. I thought they would show up, but T1 forced them into their game, which was much more skirmish heavy.
But if you had to set the odds before the morning of the game,
well, the betting odds were still JDG favored.
Exactly, that was completely rational.
Yeah,
I think, right? Yeah, I think the odds for once were like in a T1 game, especially. I think the betting odds at that game were completely fair. Like, that is what I put the odds of it. JDG slightly favored.
Weibo was way underdog in that BLG match. I should have put some fucking money on that shit. I knew it. Like I said, I was lying awake at night. Like, I know. Like, I just got this feeling that Weibo's gonna win, and like I
It was
said,
just the conversation of the most consistent good LPL team for the least consistent good LPL team.
yeah. Like so, like they showed that they can play their game. And really the only two games BLG won were the games they had Jax.
Yeah.
Like, how did
I
they
think if
know?
you play a bracket though, the Weibo is the only LPL team that has illustrated that they stick to their guns. And I do believe that's the only way they'll win against T1. They need to not just completely opt into trying to win at their game.
I think they can skirmish them though.
I do too.
Especially if Zhao Hu is actually decides to fucking get on a fucking plane from China and show up to fucking Korea and play a game. Weibo definitely has a chance. I think this is the closest finals we've had in quite some time. Every other so the only other thing I saw was there was I think someone on the dive or the dive Foria state because they're in Korea. The whole
The whole big thing.
Someone was mentioning the same thing like that. Like there's a chance that Weibo can win. My vote's going with T1, and I think it's going to be 3-1. And everyone else is like, what? 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. And it's like, so like when people watch these games and they analyze the winner and they look at the winning team and you're looking at it, do you look at what the losing team's doing? Because I think that that has a big thing. Like I don't think JDG played to their level. If there was a loser's bracket, there's a big chance that JDG fucking runs it, comes right back up to the finals. Especially if they were like, okay, we didn't play our game. We got forced into a meta that isn't what we play. We play our meta, which is what I want teams to do, is play what's strongest for you. Even if it's not the best thing ever, like there's a reason why Nautilus is perma-banned by T1. Because if a Nautilus gets through, then that fucking double ADC bot lane is going down.
I don't know if the Nautilus was perma-banned in the JDG series.
So it was actually, game 4, it was not, actually, games 1 and 2 it was, but then I guess that they didn't think that they were going to play it. Because they already picked their bot lane. That's why.
Yeah, they always picked it early after that.
Yeah. So once their bot lane was picked, they had it banned. Except for game 4, where I guess they weren't worried because they knew they were going to be going Bard.
Yeah, the Bard in Nautilus is pretty brutal. But I definitely thinks TK in that game 4, man. I want to see Weibo put on. I want this to be a good series. I am not sure how to place the power levels going into this, just because I think so much of this is predicated on Weibo draft strategies. I think that was their strength against BLG, and it's hard for me to grasp what is going to be the best draft approach against T1, especially since the meta is shifting so fast.
I think that's also one of T1 strengths is their draft. Like that game 4 is a great showcase of it. Swapping up to ban the Callista.
I think the drafting and the coaching staff definitely was a huge faltering on the JDG side, and why T1 won that series.
Yeah, you can build a super team, but you also need a super coach.
Yeah, they made the coach came out and made an apology and announced that taking a year off basically after that, and like
Dead ass.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He was supposed to take this year off, but because he just had a kid, but they, they're put the team together and were making the run, so he postponed his break anyway. But he did apologize for the outcome of that series, like within 8 or 9 hours, and I can understand that just because some of the elements did feel like the drafting was a reason why the approach to these games was a huge problem. I think JDG made like 3 unforgivable, unforced errors in the games. And if they made 2 or 1, maybe even only 1 less, that's the series probably goes to game 5.
Yeah,
But
if game 4 they did Wukong or Vi and then Gragas or Cassante top.
So many angles in game 4.
Like that alone, just like that alone, could have changed the whole outcome of the game. Even though Kanavi did actually somehow have a good Belveth game that game until he just decided to become a double agent. The PayPal fucking email cleared, and he's like, "Oh,
you're going down in the 3rd. Remember, the 3rd." He like looked at the game clock. He's like 14:53. It's almost time.
And
Hydra.
I think Weibo actually made a huge statement with that game 5, with the Shy going, "You guys got this. I'll play weak side. No worries."
And I think honestly the biggest, who are some of the biggest performers of this tournament to me are the Chinese junglers. Jun and Weiwei have had crazy good tournaments. I think the top
Quite
3
good.
is easily, Owner, Sean, Weiwei. All 3 of them are doing incredible, especially come playoffs, like showing really high levels. And some of these guys are like kind of unknown to the crowds, and even coming out of LPL, people would know, Tarzan and Navi. So for them to come out and just completely smash is pretty awesome. I think Missing has also had a great tournament until this T1 aspect where he played like actually straight bad. And I do think it's pretty fair to say like the best 3 supports in the world are probably like Missing, Area, and maybe Delight. Even though Genji went out early, I think Delight had some crazy good performances. It's hard for me to look at Crisp and On after I'm seeing these fucking Ash games and stuff and really be super pumped. I just don't like it. I do not love. Even when these teams are winning on the picks, I don't feel like the champions and the picks are amazing, and it's the reason why they're winning.
I mean, they definitely have their champs. I think Chris Bernada is going to be permabanned. Ash is probably going to be ban pick.
Yeah.
In all 5.
There.
But I do hope we get more of like these, because like obviously Weibo's going to pick some weird shit. Obviously T1's going to pick some weird shit. The bans are going to be, I think it's going to be less about denying your opponent something that they want and trying to play that mind game of banning something that's going to counter something that you're going to play, without letting them, like, obviously if you ban Poppy, they're going to be like Kalista ban, unless you save it for last round or something like that, or like it's going to be a mind game, and I am so hyped for it.
For sure.
Speaking of which, I am looking for a way to get a timer on screen so I can live view the finals.
Can you just box out around the timer of the game itself?
That's probably what I'm going to end up doing.
I think that's the easiest, and it's the most accurate. Least amount of work for you.
That's probably what I'm going to do. So yeah, I will be up all night Saturday night.
Same.
first with the F1 Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Join Pod of Ages for its first ever World Championship Finals live view.
Yeah, on Doomfunk on twitch.tv/Doomfunk. I think that's it, my man.
Actually, yeah, this has been a pretty good episode, I think. Pretty good discussions here. Hopefully, we can be more accurate. I am very miffed with myself that everything I thought has just went completely out the window. I just felt like we just skipped over the Tom Kench step of this meta evolution off screen, and now I just look like an idiot.
So
But
it's Dom put a tweet out going like, "What in the hell is going on with these picks?" And I just replied, "I'm like, it's called meta evolution. Is this your first Worlds?" And then fucking LS is mauling over misuse of the term meta. It's the most efficient tactic available. And it's like, guess what? The most efficient tactic available is in a MOBA. Whatever it is you're good at.
I mean, that's not necessarily true, though. Because, if you want, if we're actually getting nitpicky, I do agree with this notion that, like, the meta is, there is a notion of the perceived meta and the actual meta. And for the most part, we almost never even really get that close to actual meta because people don't conceptualize the game very well and things change too fast. And because of obviously personal player skill, like no one can have enough range to be able to grasp all notions of what will be meta all the time because you just can't play to the level to get it.
There's 100 and how many champions in League of Legends?
Basically 70.
170 champions. So there is 10 bans, 10 picks in a game. Coming from Dota, which and a lot of people are starting to say the game is actually getting more this way, is it's getting into some of the most balanced state it's ever been in, minus new champion releases and their OP-ness for a month and a half. But when it gets to that point, it starts becoming rock, paper, scissors, but with a dozen objects. And so this beats this, but then this beats that, and that beats this, and this beats that. And then you have crossover on some of it too. And it's like the meta is a circle with lots of lines going through it. Like imagine Charlie Day from fucking Always Sunny, that scene where he's drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes in the basement of the fucking newspaper factory. He's just like, you see here? Yeah. That's fucking MOBA meta.
Unless they fuck up and things like Ardent Sensor runs the game. And literally getting that item first and playing champions that use that item finds everything about why anything is good. Like sometimes, sadly, Riot does hit that point too hard.
Yeah, and there will always be outliers like that. But like in the current state of the game, there's not really an item where you're like, this item is
no. But
overpowered, and it makes these group of champions fucking OP. Like Gore Drinker was for a while. Static Shiv was for a while. Fucking Divine Sunderer was for a while. But now on Divine Sunderer champs, you can build Triforce. It is a viable option.
I think they fix it. They get to it. But every now and then they mess it up. And the problem is sometimes stuff sits that way for a long time. We just don't discover it fast enough because people aren't knowledgeable enough to see it. And that is the issue with League, and why I would say there's always, in particular, a few things that just lie slightly beyond the notion of counters and balance because the game isn't always balanced perfectly.
Oh yeah,
I don't
but that's not
your notion, but
that's not a meta like a meta thing in that like right now in League of Legends. Like that's why I'm like when he's fucking people are freaking out over the meta shifted, and it's like, yeah, players are playing a thing and they're like, huh, why don't we try this works really well into that, let's try this, and then it works, and then that becomes meta, and then you have to find the counter into that. And then
an example of what I would give for a current extreme outlier is
you cut off there, so we have no idea what you said.
said a current example I would give of an extreme outlier, 1320 plus, is actually Ivern. Because now that the jungle clear speeds and everything is different, a champion that clears in 310 full clear is actually kind of a big deal, especially with how hard he scales. Because he's a game breaking design, you know. Senna
Yeah,
upon release is, you know, game
Senna was
breaking
so
design.
OP
But
for
she
so
was,
long.
yeah, different ways why she was OP. She wasn't quite like this, but she was definitely game breaking.
Yeah. I mean, look, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually did see fucking Ivern pop up tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, Saturday. It's
Saturday.
Wednesday. It's almost Thursday. So if you've made it this far into the podcast, thanks for hanging out. Like and follow. Follow me on Twitch. Follow us on Twitter. Links will be in the description.
Drop in for our live view. I'm sure it'll be a comical time.
I'll tweet it out. You tweet it out.
Boom, boom.